Welcome to another edition of the Match Podcast. Unfortunately, it's going to be the last one in the series as we finish on Friday. An end of an era, some say, but never mind. But before I get upset, let's concentrate on this weekend's results. Tom Binns, a great win for Preston North End first team?
Yeah, it was a great result for the boys. They needed a win, and it was a big effort at Birmingham. I don't think everyone expected them to do it. And in usual Preston fashion, they made it as difficult as possible when they went a goal down early on. But when Paul McKenna's speculative effort flew into the top right-hand corner, you thought, do you know what, it could be Preston's day today. And when Wallace fired in a free kick in the last few minutes, it's really set up a big finish next weekend.
Two great goals, Tom, there, though, weren't they? You don't normally see McKenna let one fly like that.
No, I think Paul McKenna was as surprised that it had gone in as everybody else was, but it was some goal, and you didn't think it could top it, but Wallace's goal was simply just good enough to win any game.
Yeah, I think Wallace, you agree, he's kind of a big player for Preston. He seems to go in and out of games, but obviously he's come up with the goods this weekend. What were your thoughts on his red card? It was silly of him, really, weren't it, to take his shirt off when he scored?
It was. All the players know the rules. I think the emotion of the occasion got the better of him. It was a massive goal in terms of the season, in terms of the whole season for Preston, and he let his emotions get the better of him. The strike itself was unbelievable, and when he's on form for Preston, Preston tend to be a far better side, and he'll be greatly missed next week in another must-win game.
Yeah, it's a massive game now. What do you think their chances? I mean, it's out of their hands. They've got to rely on Burnley dropping points. But you confident of them getting into the playoffs now?
I don't know. I think it's going to be 50-50. I think the boys need to fully concentrate on themselves first. They can't think about what everybody else is going to do, because if anybody else slips up, it still means that they have to go and win the game. And they need to finish the season off in style, whether they go into the playoffs or not. They've got as much momentum as they could ever have now after that performance, and I think all that's needed is they just need to pick up 3 points next weekend, and that's all that matters, and leave the rest to everybody else.
But they should do that, shouldn't they, against a QPR side that really haven't got too much to play for, really?
They should, but having said that, this is the Championship, and you can just never know what's going to happen in that league. Everyone beats everyone, and everyone does it when you don't expect them to do it as well, so Preston are going to have to give 100%. They're going to have to be at the best. I think they'll do it. It's the last game of the season, and they just need one big final push. I'm sure they'll be cheered on all the way by a packed-out Deepdale next weekend, and it makes for a grandstand finish.
Yeah, let's hope so, Tom. Thanks very much. We'll go to Treve now, and he was at the women's game. They got a draw at home, but came from a goal down. A good result, Treve?
It was an average result, really. They dominated the game. They had a few chances to win it in the last 15 minutes, but it was just one of those games where it was two mid-table sides at the end of the season, nothing really to play for. There's no relegation on their minds anymore, so it was just an average game, really.
Anyone take your eye in the game, though, Treve?
Gemma Watson again. She, each week in, week out, she's fantastic. I say that I think next season she's got a very good chance of playing in the Premier League. She looks very good talent. Hannah Bailey, the goal scorer. Again, it's a scrappy goal. She bundled it in, but she was again in the right place at the right time. So that's a good sign of a good goal scorer. Another player, Emma Reeder, the goalkeeper, had a very, very solid game. She was very quick off the line and was almost like a sweeper for a back four yesterday.
If Gemma Watson was to go, Treve, that's a big loss, surely.
Yeah, a lot of their creativity and their spark would go instantly if she went. She's a footballer. She's got a footballing brain on her. She knows when to spread a ball. She knows when to go on herself, and that would be a massive blow for them, definitely.
So what do you think they can hope for next season? Do they need to sign a few more players, or just keep the group that they've got and move on from there?
I think they've got a good spine. They've got a good right winger in Laura Walker. Their centre midfielder, the captain, the nickname Giggsy. She's a very solid player. They could introduce a couple more defenders because they look quite vulnerable sometimes. Other than that, they look okay, but a few more players could help out and strengthen.
Thanks very much, Treve. Right, and finally, finishing up on football, we've got Tony Raftery, and he was at Bamber Bridge on Saturday. How did that go, Tony?
Yeah, well, for the final game of the season, it was disappointing. They got beat 4-1 by Ossett Albion, and when you consider the next to each other in the table, it really shouldn't have been. They should have really took the game to them and won. But the manager, he's seen what he's got in his squad, and he's gave a lot of the reserve players a chance. and they're clearly not up to that level. So you can't read too much into it because I expect changes to be made in the summer.
But still, it's another home defeat. I bet they're glad the season's over now, aren't they, Tony?
Yeah, it started off so well as well, but since Christmas the form has dropped, and they're just looking forward to the summer and rebuilding job, and hopefully next year we up their promotion challenges.
So that's what their ambition is for next season, you think? You think they'll be going for promotion?
Yeah, I spoke to Phil Entwistle, the ex-manager, on Saturday, and he said although it's a 2-year plan, it might not happen next year, but in the next 2 or 3 years they expect to be challenging. But he said he won't be surprised, considering Greenwood's record, if they did go up next year.
But the game itself, nothing really to report on then, really, for Bamba?
No, just both teams. Like, Ossett took the chances when they presented themselves, whereas Bamba missed a lot, so it was a nothing game, really.
Right, thanks very much, Tony. You'll see exclusive highlights from that game on our website, www.ukjournalism.co.uk/the match. Moving on to something a little different now. Ryan Giggs was named PFA Player of the Year last night. And I've come in and there's been some pretty heated discussion, so I thought we'd get it here on the podcast. First of all, we'll go to Treve. What did you think of it, Treve?
I think it's farcical, to be honest. I think there's no doubt in the guy's talent. He's been an excellent player for Manchester United over the years. His medal collection's phenomenal. But for someone who started 12 games this season, I don't see how he can claim such a big prize. Players such as Gerrard, even his teammates, even Edwin van der Sar, Vidic or Ferdinand deserve it ahead of him, in my opinion. So it was a bit of a shock when he was named that last night.
And Tom, I know you weren't too pleased about it either.
I think it's a bit of a sympathy vote. I was quite surprised to hear that it's the first time he's won the award, which for a guy of his sort of standard and someone who's been around as long as him, you may have expected him to sort of have picked up the award a lot earlier in his career, and even he admitted in his interview afterwards, after picking up the award, that maybe in the last couple of seasons, as he's aged a bit, his performances aren't quite what they used to be. So it was a bit of a surprise that he's picked it up. But he's still a great player and still does a job for his boss, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it was a bit of a sympathy vote, but at the end of the day, he's had a great career, and the times he has come on, I think he's changed the game this year. But yeah, surely you've got to give it to someone that plays, the majority of the season. Tony, I mean, I know you're a bit of a flying winger yourself. What have you got to say about Ryan Giggs winning the trophy?
For him personally, it's a good thing, but to be honest with you, I didn't think the list of nominations were right in the first place.
You'd like to see an Everton player in there, wouldn't you, Tone?
Not necessarily. I just didn't like the fact. How can you have 5 players from the same team considered for the award? And with that in mind, Giggs was the obvious choice considering the reports he's had this season.
Right, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening again. Be sure to tune into our website, www.ukjournalism.co.uk/the match, and we'll try and keep you up to date on all the Preston news. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.